That ugly yellow paper felt heavy in my hand. Lakeside Meadows. HOA official notice. Their signal for pay attention. My fingers shook reading the stark words, "Unauthorized structure must be removed within 21 days." They meant the little wooden footbridge, the one I finished last fall. It was the only quick way to my sister Olivia's place on the island in Silver Lake. Standing there in my garden surrounded by blooming azaleas, I felt a wave of disbelief. How could they do this? This isn't right, I muttered, collapsing onto the porch swing. Olivia's fight with ovarian cancer had taken a hard turn. That bridge turned a difficult 50-minute drive into an easy 4-minute walk. She needed me nearby, especially after her tough chemo sessions. How will I get her groceries? Herr Mills. I dialed the HOA office right away but just got voicemail. Predictable. Brenda Maxwell, the board president, only seemed available when it suited her. Looks like I'd have to face her at the board meeting the next day. Sleep felt impossible that night. My mind wouldn't stop picturing the worst. Without the bridge, how could I quickly reach Olivia if something went wrong? How would I manage everything? Whispers filled the community clubhouse when I walked in the following morning. About 20 neighbors sat on metal folding chairs, facing 5 board members at a long table. Brenda Maxwell sat right in the middle, her platinum bob perfectly in place, reading glasses hanging from a silver chain. Moving on, Brenda declared, tapping her agenda without looking up. Review of enforcement actions for unapproved structures. My hand shot up. I need to discuss the notice about my footbridge. Brenda's gaze sharpened. Sarah Peterson, 38 River Run Road. Yes, we have documentation of your unpermitted construction. The bridge is in violation of 4 separate covenants. It's entirely on my property, I insisted, standing, and it connects to my sister's island, which isn't even under HOA control. The shoreline itself falls under our authority, Brenda stated coolly. You did not submit the required plans for approval. My sister has stage 3 ovarian cancer, I pleaded, my voice trembling. That bridge is essential. I use it to take her to appointments, bring her food. Personal issues don't excuse anyone from following the rules. Brenda cut me off. The board's decision stands. Across the room, Mark Thompson gave a slight smug nod. He'd moved in next door 8 months ago and seemed to find fault with everything. My wind sculpture, my bird bath, and now, clearly, my bridge. Funny how his oversized RV parked on his lawn never got a violation notice. I intend to appeal, I stated firmly. You may certainly try. Brenda offered a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. But work on that eyesore must cease immediately, and removal must commence in 2 weeks. As the meeting broke up, Chloe Davis, a young mother from down the street, gently touched my arm. Something similar happened to me, she whispered. They forced me to take down my kid's swing set last month, claimed it was too visible from the lake. How do they get away with this? I asked, bewildered. Brenda's husband golfs with the county commissioner, Chloe murmured. And several board members work for Apex Waterfront Group. They basically run things around here. Walking back home, I saw Mark Thompson on his deck, aiming a camera with a long lens right at my property. He didn't even flinch when he saw me looking, just gave a little smirk and a wave. What is wrong with him? That afternoon, I had to call Olivia. The HOA is demanding I tear down the bridge. What? But why? Her voice sounded frail, weaker than just last week. They're saying I didn't get the right permits. But I checked with the county before I built it. They said I didn't need one since it doesn't cross public land. This feels wrong, Sarah, Olivia sighed. Without that bridge, I know. I'm going to fight it, I promised. For now, I'll use the kayak to bring your things. In this weather, it's getting cold. That's not safe, Olivia argued. Maybe I should just sell the island. Move closer. Don't you dare say that, I said, trying to sound strong for both of us. That island has been in our family for generations. Mom and Dad wanted you to have it because you love it so much. We'll figure this out. After we hung up, I spread out my property survey maps and the thick HOA rulebook. There had to be a loophole. Hours later, buried in fine print, I found something. The HOA could only regulate structures visible from community property. If I could document that the bridge wasn't visible from common areas, they might not have a case. I grabbed my camera and went outside, taking pictures from every possible angle. Hidden by a thick stand of pines from the community boat launch, completely invisible from the main road, and barely a speck from the water unless you knew exactly where to look. Gotcha. My phone rang just as I was finishing. An unknown number. Hello, Ms. Peterson. This is Robert Vance from Apex Waterfront Group. I heard you might be having some issues regarding your property. My stomach clenched. How did you get my number? It's a small community, he chuckled lightly. Listen, perhaps I can offer a solution that benefits everyone. We've been looking at waterfront properties in this area. If you'd consider selling, we could potentially make this HOA situation vanish. My property isn't for sale, I stated flatly. Just consider it, Robert went on smoothly. We'd offer significantly above market value. Your sister's island, too. Enough for both of you to find a place more suitable. I hung up without another word and immediately called Olivia. Did you just get a call from Apex Waterfront Group? Yes, Olivia sounded startled. How did you know? They called me right after you did. Something feels really off about this. That night, I dove into researching Apex Waterfront Group. They had a pattern of buying up lakefront land across the county, replacing quiet homes with high-end condos and exclusive resorts. Their latest project seemed stalled, reportedly because one owner refused to sell. Could that be us? The next morning, a shoreline builder's truck pulled up. A man in a hard hat carrying a clipboard walked towards my house. Sarah Peterson, we're scheduled to begin removal of the unauthorized structure. You can't, I protested, stepping outside. I've filed an appeal. The HOA has to review it before taking any action. The foreman just shrugged. My work order comes straight from the board president. You need to talk to her. I stood my ground right on the bridge planks. I'm not moving. This is private property, and you don't have permission to be here. The workers exchanged uneasy glances. The foreman made a quick call, spoke quietly, then turned back to me. All right, we'll hold off on removal today, he said. But we'll return tomorrow, and we'll bring the sheriff if we have to. After they drove off, I went straight to the county records office. I needed clarity on the HOA's actual rights. The clerk pulled up my property deed and frowned. Well, that's odd, she muttered. What's odd? I asked, leaning closer. According to this file, there's a pending petition to redraw the shoreline boundaries right here, filed 4 months ago by... She peered at the monitor. Apex Waterfront Group. Ice formed in my veins. What would that change for properties like mine? If it gets approved, the new line would put all shoreline structures under county rules, meaning you'd need permits you didn't need before. And who approves those permits? The county zoning board? She nodded. Yes, chaired by Commissioner Phillips. Isn't he the one who golfs with Brenda Maxwell's husband? Of course. Driving home, the connection started clicking, like tumblers in a lock. My phone rang. Chloe again. Sarah, you need to get over to my house right now. Someone's here you should meet. 15 minutes later, I was in Chloe's living room with 4 other neighbors, all targeted by seemingly arbitrary HOA citations. Kevin Bell had been forced to remove his boat dock. Elderly Mrs. Gable faced constant fines for her vegetable garden. The Chen family couldn't get approval for a sunroom, while Brenda's own identical addition sailed through. This isn't random, a man introduced himself. I'm David Miller, the former HOA treasurer. I quit the previous year when I found suspicious payments going to a shell consulting firm. Why didn't you report it? I asked. I tried, David said, his expression grim. The day after I talked to a county investigator, my house was broken into. They didn't take anything valuable, just tossed my financial files everywhere. It was a clear warning. So, what can we do? Mrs. Gable asked, her hands trembling slightly. We fight back, I declared, surprised by my own resolve. Together, and we start by saving my bridge. Driving the short distance home, headlights filled my rearview mirror, tailgating me. The car shadowed me turn after turn. My heart pounded as I pulled into my driveway. The vehicle slowed as it passed. A black SUV with dark tinted windows. I couldn't see the driver, but I recognized the Apex Waterfront Group logo discreetly placed on the door. They're watching me. Inside, I double-checked all the locks, then peeked through the blinds. Mark Thompson stood in his driveway, phone pressed to his ear, eyes fixed on my house. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Selling is easier than fighting. Some fights aren't worth the cost. The pre-dawn fog was thick when I slipped out the back door, armed only with a flashlight and my phone. I crept towards the bridge. If they intended to destroy it today, I needed proof of its current state. My phone vibrated. A text from Olivia. You okay? Couldn't sleep. Worried. I typed back quickly. Fine. Getting pics of bridge before they show. Stay put. The wooden planks felt damp under my boots as I walked the bridge's length. recording everything. The smooth handrails Dad taught me to shape, the sturdy supports designed for lake floods, the way it blended with the natural shoreline. A twig snapped nearby. I spun around, heart hammering. Who's there? My voice sounded tiny in the darkness. Silence. But my flashlight beam caught a flicker of movement in the bushes near my property line. A figure melted back into the trees. I hurried back inside, locked the door, and called the non-emergency police line. Officer Riley arrived 25 minutes later, looking tired as he took notes. Probably just deer, ma'am, he suggested with a yawn. We'll add extra patrols, though. This isn't the first weird thing, I insisted. Someone's been watching my house, following my car. Do you have any proof? He asked. Well, no, but call us back if you see something definite. He handed me a card and drove away. Great help. As the sun rose, a different kind of threat materialized. 3 Shoreline Builders trucks rumbled down my driveway. Brenda Maxwell emerged from her gleaming silver sedan behind them, clipboard ready. Ms. Peterson, she called out, her tone falsely bright. I trust you've reconsidered. The crew is prepared to remove the unauthorized structure. I stepped onto my porch, phone discreetly recording from my pocket. I filed an appeal with proof the bridge doesn't violate any HOA rules. You can't legally touch it until the appeal is heard. Brenda's smile faltered. An emergency board meeting last night denied your appeal. The notice was posted on the community bulletin board. Posted late at night? That's not proper procedure, I argued. And as the affected homeowner, I should have been notified directly. The rules are the rules, Brenda said, her patience wearing thin. Now, kindly step aside so the work can proceed. I have a court order, I bluffed, praying she wouldn't challenge it. Any attempt to remove this bridge before the county hearing next week will result in contempt charges. Brenda's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Let me see this order. My lawyer has it. He's on his way now. I stood as tall as I could, hoping my voice didn't betray my racing pulse. Or you can proceed and explain to a judge why you disregarded due process. The construction foreman looked uneasy. Mrs. Maxwell, maybe we should wait if there's legal stuff involved. Brenda shot him a glare, then turned back to me. Fine. You have until Tuesday. After that, the bridge comes down. Court order or no court order. As the trucks drove away, my legs felt weak with relief. The bluff had worked, buying me precious time. My phone rang instantly. Sarah, it's David Miller. Chloe told me what happened. Meet me at Willow Branch Cafe in 15 minutes. The small cafe in the next town was quiet. David sat in a booth near the back, a thick manila folder on the table. I've been digging since I resigned, he said quietly, opening the folder. Financial statements showing those weird payments. Board meeting minutes that were clearly altered after the fact. Property tax assessments that mysteriously dropped for owners who refused Apex's offers. I looked through the documents, my coffee forgotten. This is huge. Fraud, easily. It's bigger than that, David said, leaning closer. Apex isn't just about luxury condos. Their parent corporation has interests in gaming. The lakeside resort they want to build? That's just Phase 1. Phase 2 involves a private entertainment complex designed to bypass county gambling laws. How could they do that? State Senator Harrison pushed a bill the previous year creating loopholes for hospitality entertainment zones. Apex's CEO was a major donor to his campaign. I leaned back, stunned. So my little bridge, it's in the way of a multi-million-dollar casino project? Your property and Olivia's island are the key pieces they need, David confirmed. Without controlling that continuous stretch of shoreline, their development plans fall apart. No wonder they're playing so dirty, I murmured. But why not just offer more money? Surely everyone has a price? David gave a sad smile. They probably tried that first. But people like you and Olivia, people with history here, with principles, you're their biggest obstacle. Driving home, I called Olivia. We need to talk. Face to face. Can you come over tonight? I have chemo today, she reminded me gently. I'll be wiped out tonight. Okay, I'll come to you, I decided. And listen, don't talk to anyone about the island. Not a soul. Getting to Olivia's without the bridge meant using my kayak. I packed essentials in waterproof bags. Documents, a warm blanket for Olivia, and her favorite chicken soup. As I dragged the kayak toward the lake, a familiar black SUV drove slowly past my house. This time, I clearly saw Mark Thompson in the passenger seat, staring straight at me. The lake was getting choppy. and the short trip felt strenuous. By the time I reached Olivia's dock, my shoulders ached, and spray had soaked my jacket. Seeing Olivia's pale face watching from the window erased my discomfort. "You shouldn't have come out in this wind," she fussed, helping me pull the kayak up. "We have a problem," I said, unpacking the folder on her kitchen table. "A much bigger problem than we thought." Olivia listened intently as I laid out everything David had revealed. Her expression grew graver with every detail. "So that explains the daily calls," she said finally. "A man named Brian Shaw keeps calling, raising his offer for the island. Yesterday he mentioned my medical bills, almost like he knew the exact amount." A chill went down my spine. "Have you told anyone specific numbers?" "Only my insurance company and the hospital," Olivia said. "And you, obviously." I thought about Mark watching my house, the anonymous texts, the feeling of being followed. They're watching us, listening somehow. We spent the next couple of hours going over options. Selling was unthinkable. The island was family legacy. Fighting the HOA alone felt impossible against their connections. "But maybe the local news?" I suggested. "They love underdog stories, especially when big developers seem to be harassing cancer patients." Olivia looked hesitant. "That's a huge step, Sarah. These people clearly have influence." "We have influence too," I insisted. "The truth and the community." As dusk settled, I knew I had to leave. Crossing the lake in darkness would be risky, but I had to get back. "Stay here tonight," Olivia pleaded. "It's not safe to cross now." "I can't," I replied. "If I'm not home when they show up tomorrow, they might just start demolition anyway." Halfway across the darkening lake, my kayak's small light hit something floating ahead. Debris. Paddling closer, my blood turned to ice. Splintered wooden planks, pieces of railing. My bridge. They hadn't waited. They were destroying it now. I paddled furiously toward my shoreline. From the water, I could see flashlight beams dancing along the bank. The whine of power saws cut through the night air. Fumbling with my phone in its waterproof case, I dialed 911. "There are people trespassing on my property right now, destroying my footbridge," I reported, trying to keep panic out of my voice. "We'll dispatch an officer immediately," the operator assured me. I stayed hidden in the kayak, obscured by the darkness, watching three figures systematically dismantling the bridge. One was definitely Mark Thompson. The other two were just silhouettes against the dim light from my house. 20 agonizing minutes passed before police car lights flashed at the end of my drive. The trespassers instantly melted into the woods between the properties. Officer Riley, the same officer from the morning, met me as I finally paddled ashore, exhausted and furious. "Are you certain they didn't have permission?" he asked, sounding skeptical. "Of course I'm certain," I cried. "It's my property. My bridge." "Well, according to HOA records, this removal was scheduled with your signed consent," Riley said, consulting his notes. "We have the paperwork." My anger turned cold. "They forged my signature. That's a crime." "That's a very serious claim, ma'am," Riley replied coolly. "Do you have any evidence of that?" In that moment, the depth of the conspiracy hit me. The HOA, the developers, maybe even elements of the police, all intertwined. "Not yet," I admitted, teeth clenched. "But I will get it." After Officer Riley left, I surveyed the ruin. The bridge was mangled, unusable. Reaching Olivia now meant the kayak or the long 50-minute drive. Inside, I sank onto the sofa, overwhelmed by exhaustion and despair. Then something on my coffee table caught my eye. Something that wasn't there when I left. A business card for Apex Waterfront Group. Scrawled on the back was a note. "Final offer. $850,000 for your property. $1.5 million for your sister's island. Expires tomorrow." Someone had been inside my house. My hands started shaking as I checked locks, peered into closets, looked under the bed. Nothing seemed obviously disturbed, but the violation made my skin crawl. I called David Miller. "They broke into my house," I whispered, suddenly afraid of being overheard even in my own home. "Get out of there, Sarah, now," he urged. "Go to a friend's house. Bring any evidence you have." "I can't just leave," I argued. "If I run, they win." "If you stay, you could get hurt," David countered. "This isn't just about HOA rules anymore." As if on cue, my lights flickered and died, plunging the house into blackness. Looking out the window, I saw all the neighboring houses still brightly lit. My phone pinged. Another text from the unknown number. "Last chance. Accept the offer. Things get much harder after tonight. Grabbing my emergency flashlight, the folder of documents, and my laptop, I slipped out the back door. I wouldn't stay where they could find me, but I wasn't running away. I headed through the backyards toward Chloe Davis's house. Together, we'd build a case they couldn't ignore. As I crept through the shadows, avoiding the streetlights, a new feeling replaced the fear: determination. They tore down my bridge to Olivia, but they'd inadvertently built another bridge, one connecting neighbors tired of being pushed around. And that connection felt strong enough to challenge the whole rotten system. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel as the boat slapped against the choppy water. This 40-minute ride around the peninsula to reach Olivia had become my reality since they destroyed the bridge. The engine coughed and I instinctively hit the dashboard. "Don't you dare," I muttered. The $800 fine Brenda had issued for improper debris removal meant boat repairs were out of the question. Finally tying up at Olivia's dock, I found her sitting quietly in her garden, looking even more frail than the day before. Her favorite blue sweater seemed too big on her small frame. "Guess what happened at my doctor's visit?" Olivia said, managing a weak smile. "Dr. Patel thinks the new treatment might actually be working." I hugged her carefully, hiding my own exhaustion and worry. "Liv, that's wonderful news." I carried in her groceries and mail. While Olivia rested inside, I organized her weekly medications. My hands trembled slightly. I'd only managed about 3 hours of sleep, but I couldn't let her see how stressed I was. "Stop trying to hide it," Olivia called softly from the doorway, making me jump. "You look more worn out than I do, and I'm the one with cancer." I sighed, sinking into a kitchen chair across from her. "I've been digging into the HOA finances. Remember last year's big fee increase for infrastructure upgrades that never happened?" Olivia nodded slowly. "Well, look." I opened my laptop. "I got public records for all HOA payments. This company, Meadowbrook Lawn Care, got paid $515,000 over 4 years. Olivia leaned closer to the screen. "For what? Mowing the common areas?" "Exactly. And guess who owns Meadowbrook Lawn Care?" I displayed the business registration. "George Maxwell, Brenda's brother-in-law." Olivia's eyes widened. "You think they're embezzling funds?" "It gets worse." I showed her the property records I'd downloaded. The HOA, through a shell corporation, has bought 5 foreclosed homes in the neighborhood in the last 2 years. And guess whose name keeps popping up related to initiating the foreclosures? "Mark Thompson," Olivia whispered, recognizing our neighbor's name instantly. "He works for a mortgage processing company. Every single one of these foreclosures went through his company, often citing minor paperwork issues the homeowners couldn't afford to fight." Thunder rumbled distantly as rain began to streak the windows. I knew I needed to head back before the storm hit full force. "Be careful with all this, Sarah," Olivia warned, walking me toward the dock. "These people sound genuinely dangerous." I hugged her tightly. "Don't worry about me. I'm meeting Chloe and Kevin tonight to plan our next move." The rain was coming down hard by the time I reached the marina. Soaked and shivering despite my rain jacket, I hurried to my car, barely noticing the black SUV parked a few rows away. Opening my front door, I felt a prickle of unease. The small green light on my security panel was flashing red. Inside, chaos. Drawers pulled open. Papers scattered across the living room floor. My desktop computer was gone. Heart pounding, I started to back out but stopped cold when I saw the kitchen counter. A single sheet of paper lay there. An official Lakeside Meadows HOA violation notice, dated today. The violation? Unauthorized investigation of board activities. The fine? $2,800. My phone rang, startling me badly. Chloe's voice was high-pitched with panic. "Kevin just called me. He's locked out of his house. 2 men showed up with an eviction notice while he was at work and changed the locks." "That's impossible," I whispered, rushing to double-check my own locks. "His payments are automatic. They claim his last 6 payments were improperly processed. He has 3 days to get out." I peered through the rain-streaked blinds at the dark street. "This is retaliation. They know we're investigating." "There's more," Chloe whispered urgently. "I followed Mark the day before. He met someone from Apex Waterfront Group for lunch. I got pictures." I grabbed my pre-packed emergency bag from the hall closet. "Send them to me now. I'll head to your—" "You're not listening," Chloe cut in. "I overheard them talking about permits for the resort. They specifically mentioned Olivia's Island, said it was the final piece they needed. Her property, Sarah." It all slammed into place. The bridge, the harassment, the break-ins. It was all about isolating Olivia, making her desperate enough to sell. "I have to call Olivia," I stammered. dialing with trembling fingers. Straight to voicemail. My doorbell chimed loudly, making me jump and nearly drop the phone. Through the peephole, I saw two men in dark suits standing under umbrellas on my porch. One held up a badge that caught the porch light. "Miss Sarah Peterson?" A calm, deep voice called out. "FBI. We need to ask you some questions regarding the Lakeside Meadows HOA." My breath hitched. Was this Brenda's doing? Or was this something entirely different? "Please, have a seat, Ms. Peterson," the taller agent said, showing his badge again. "I'm Special Agent Diaz. This is Agent Carter." My own living room suddenly felt alien, unsafe. Were they really FBI or part of Brenda's network? "We've had Lakeside Meadows HOA under investigation for 10 months, Diaz stated, opening a folder, "focusing on money laundering, wire fraud, and potential racketeering." My jaw dropped. You're not here because of me?" Agent Carter offered a faint smile. "No. Your complaints about the bridge actually corroborated some of our findings. You've been documenting activities we couldn't observe without probable cause." A wave of relief washed over me, quickly followed by dread as Diaz added, "However, our surveillance suggests Brenda Maxwell may have been tipped off about our investigation earlier today." My blood ran cold. "My sister, she's alone on the island." "We have a team en route there now," Diaz assured me, but I was already grabbing my car keys. "Olivia's not answering her phone," I said, heading for the door. "I have to get to her." The agents followed me out into the pouring rain. "We'll drive," Carter insisted, directing me to their unmarked car. Rain hammered the windshield as we raced toward the marina. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating the turbulent lake. "Tell us everything," Diaz said from the passenger seat. I poured out the story. The bridge, the forged documents, the shell companies, the resort plans. "They need Olivia's island to anchor the development," I explained. "Without it, the whole project might collapse." At the marina, we found my small boat unusable. The fuel line had been cleanly cut. "This was deliberate," Carter observed, examining the damage. Diaz spoke urgently into his radio. "All units approaching target location from the north. Expedite arrival. Subject safety is potentially compromised." My eyes scanned the docks and landed on my neighbor's kayak, still tied up. "I'm not waiting," I declared, already untying the ropes. "Ms. Peterson, it's too dangerous in this storm," Diaz shouted, but I was already shoving off into the dark, churning water. "Follow by road," I yelled back over the wind. "It's longer, but you can get there." The kayak felt terrifyingly small against the large waves. Rain stung my face, and lightning strikes illuminated the angry lake. My arms ached, but fear for Olivia pushed me onward. As I neared her island, I saw them. Two black SUVs parked near the house, lights on inside. Shadows moved behind the curtains. Instead of using the main dock, I tied the kayak underneath it, hidden from view, then scrambled up the bank and crept through the dripping woods toward the back of the house. Voices carried through a slightly open window. "The treatment facility in Zurich is world-renowned," a smooth male voice was saying. "All expenses covered naturally, Ms. Peterson. You just need to sign these transfer documents." "I've told you," Olivia's voice sounded thin, exhausted. "My home is not for sale." "Your health requires specialized attention," another voice added. Mark Thompson's. "Attention you likely can't afford without our assistance." Peeking through the kitchen window, I saw Olivia cornered near the sink. Mark blocked one exit, while a man in a sharp gray suit held out papers. "My sister will be here any minute," Olivia said, her voice trembling but defiant. The suited man chuckled. "Your sister is currently being detained by the FBI. A small misunderstanding we helped arrange." "What?" My soaked clothes felt icy against my skin. I tried the back door, locked. Spotting a heavy ceramic planter by the steps, I hefted it. The shattering glass echoed as I smashed the window pane. Ignoring the sting as I cut my hand climbing through, I stepped into the kitchen. "Actually, she's right here," I announced, breathing hard. "And I think I finally understand why you were so desperate to get rid of my bridge." Mark spun around, his face contorted with fury. "You should have stayed out of it, Sarah." Olivia rushed toward me, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and relief. "Get away from my sister," I yelled, putting myself between Olivia and the two men. "Ben, Ms. Peterson." The suited man adjusted his expensive tie, seemingly unfazed. "James Wilson, Chief Development Officer for Apex Waterfront Group. We're simply offering your sister a very generous opportunity." "You mean bullying a cancer patient?" I shot back. after cutting off her support by destroying her bridge? It's just business, Wilson shrugged dismissively. This island is crucial to our resort project. Every other necessary property owner has already agreed. Because you used Mark's company to manufacture foreclosures? I countered, seeing Mark's face pale slightly. You can't prove a thing, Mark blustered, but his eyes flickered nervously toward Wilson. Actually, I have copies of everything, I bluffed, hoping it sounded convincing, including audio of your lunch meeting discussing the resort plans and the senator's involvement. Wilson's composure finally cracked. Where are these alleged records? Safe, Olivia spoke up, finding her voice, with people instructed to release them if anything happens to either of us. Mark took a threatening step closer. Do you have any idea who you're messing with? Why don't you enlighten me? I challenged, my hand finding the handle of a large kitchen knife in the block behind me. Wilson's smile turned icy. Apex Waterfront Group doesn't like obstacles. Neither does Senator Miller. My mind raced. Senator James Miller? The powerful state senator behind controversial bills weakening waterfront environmental protections? So Senator Miller is part of this? I asked, trying to buy time. Surely the FBI agents were close by now. James, shut your mouth, Mark hissed at Wilson. It's irrelevant now. Wilson waved him off. Once this property is secured, the project moves forward no matter what you think you know. Mark grabbed Olivia's arm hard. Just sign the damn papers. I lunged forward, holding the knife out defensively. Let her go! Suddenly, flashing blue and red lights filled the windows. An amplified voice boomed from outside. FBI, the house is surrounded. Exit with your hands raised. Wilson went white as a sheet. Mark dropped Olivia's arm as if it were burning hot. You brought them here, Mark snarled at me. No, I replied, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. Your own greed did. My phone buzzed at 6 a.m. A text from Agent Diaz. Turn on Channel 5. I fumbled for the remote. The screen showed Brenda Maxwell, handcuffed, being led out of her immaculate house as neighbors peered out their windows. The news anchor reported, breaking news this morning as FBI agents conduct raids targeting Lakeside Meadows HOA board members in connection with a major fraud investigation. I sat there, stunned, my morning tea forgotten. It was so much bigger than just my bridge. By lunchtime, my doorbell was ringing nonstop. News crews, neighbors wanting gossip, people I barely recognized asking questions. I ignored them all and drove to the FBI field office as Agent Diaz had requested, bringing my box of documents and laptop. Your records filled in critical gaps, she explained, spreading surveillance photos across a sterile table. Recognize anyone? The photos showed Brenda and her husband meeting Apex executives at upscale restaurants, exchanging thick envelopes, pointing at maps that clearly showed Olivia's island. In one photo, Senator Miller himself stood beside them, gesturing at what looked like resort blueprints. We'd been tracking the financial trail for months, Diaz continued. Over $5 million laundered through shell companies linked to HOA board members. Your neighbor Mark Thompson? Turns out he's a disbarred real estate lawyer with a history of fraud in another state. My stomach churned. But how did they think they could just steal Olivia's land? They almost succeeded. The strategy was insidious. Use HOA harassment to isolate your sister, cut off her support network, and pressure her into selling while she was ill and vulnerable. Destroying the bridge was step one. Anger surged through me as I thought of Olivia, fighting cancer while these predators circled. We need your help with something crucial, Diaz said, sliding a tiny recording device across the table. There's an emergency community meeting tonight. We need Brenda to implicate herself on tape, in front of everyone. You want me to wear a wire, I stated, my voice flat. Diaz nodded grimly. We need to demonstrate that the entire community was targeted, not just your family. That evening, walking into the packed community clubhouse felt surreal. The hidden wire taped uncomfortably against my ribs. The air crackled with anger and confusion. Chloe squeezed my arm in silent solidarity as I found a seat. Brenda stood at the podium, remarkably composed despite the morning's events. These allegations are baseless, she announced firmly. This board has always acted with the community's best interests at heart. I let her finish her rehearsed denial before standing up. Is that why you had my bridge illegally demolished? To isolate my sick sister while developers tried to force her to sell her island? A wave of murmurs swept the room. Brenda's smile became brittle. Your structure violated established bylaws, Sarah. It had nothing to do with your sister's property. Then perhaps you can explain these, I countered, as Chloe began passing out copies of documents to the shocked residents. Official property assessments grossly undervaluing Olivia's island, falsified environmental reports claiming non-existent contamination, and bank statements showing large payments from Apex Waterfront Group directly to board members' personal accounts. Brenda's husband leaped to his feet. Where did you get that information? That's private. Actually, Kevin Bell called out from the back of the room, they become public record when they're part of a federal investigation. Brenda's composure finally shattered. You ungrateful people, do you have any idea what that resort would have meant for our property values? We were all going to be rich. By cheating my dying sister out of her home? I demanded, stepping closer to the podium. By manipulating zoning laws in secret? Your sister was offered a generous sum, Brenda shrieked, losing control. If she hadn't been so ridiculously stubborn. So you admit the bridge demolition was directly linked to the resort development? I pressed, locking eyes with her. The room went dead silent. Brenda realized her mistake instantly. Her eyes darted toward her husband, who was already edging towards the exit. Senator Miller promised us immunity, she blurted out, desperate. He said no one would investigate closely if we handled the local issues quietly. Just then, the main doors swung open. Senator Miller strode in, flanked by 2 FBI agents. I recall no such promise, Brenda, the senator said smoothly, straightening his tie. Mrs. Maxwell has clearly been under immense strain. My office will, of course, cooperate fully with this investigation. As agents moved towards Brenda and other implicated board members, I saw Mark Thompson slip out a side exit unnoticed. Would he get away while everyone else faced justice? And what would happen to Olivia's island now? Not guilty, Brenda's lawyer declared confidently to the press scrum on the courthouse steps. I watched the clip on my phone, my grip tightening until my knuckles ached. How is this possible? It's not over, Agent Diaz reassured me later by phone. The judge only threw out 2 lesser charges. The core counts of fraud and conspiracy are proceeding. But I felt worn down. 3 exhausting months of legal proceedings had decimated my savings. The relentless stress had clearly impacted Olivia's health, and Mark Thompson had vanished, reportedly sighted somewhere sunny with no extradition treaty. They're coming after your property next, Chloe warned me that evening, bringing over a casserole for Olivia and me. Brenda's husband filed lawsuits against you for defamation and emotional distress. Let him, I sighed, though a knot of fear tightened in my stomach. I couldn't afford another legal battle. My kitchen table was already buried under intimidating letters from high-priced law firms. Sleep wouldn't come that night. I stood at my window, gazing across the dark water towards Olivia's house. Without the bridge, checking on her meant waiting until morning. The helplessness was agonizing. What if she needs something right now? Then, a flicker of light across the water. A flashlight beam playing over Olivia's porch. Someone was over there. Heart pounding, I dialed 911 as I simultaneously raced to the dock, shoving my small aluminum boat into the lake. The outboard motor coughed to life as I sped across the black water, sheer panic fueling me. Halfway there, I saw headlights approaching on the Peninsula Road, the police responding, but taking the long way around. I would get there first. I killed the engine early, letting the boat drift silently toward her dock. The flashlight beam was now inside the house. Grabbing a heavy boat oar, I crept up the familiar path. The back door was slightly ajar. Inside, I could hear drawers being opened, the rustle of papers. Hoisting the oar, I burst into the kitchen. Don't move, I yelled at the figure hunched over Olivia's desk. The flashlight swung around, blinding me for a second. Sarah! The voice was familiar, not an intruder. It was Kevin Bell. Kevin, what on earth are you doing? I lowered the oar, completely bewildered. He held up a small USB drive. Finding our smoking gun. Olivia called me earlier. Said she remembered something crucial. Flashing lights swept across the yard as the police arrived. Kevin quickly explained. Olivia, meticulous as always, had kept digital backups of everything, including security footage showing Mark Thompson meeting with Senator Miller on her porch, discussing how to fabricate environmental issues to force the sale of her island. That footage changed the entire landscape. Within weeks, facing irrefutable evidence, Senator Miller's political protection evaporated, and he faced indictment. Brenda's remaining legal defenses crumbled when subpoenas revealed offshore accounts brimming with Apex money. But the final, crucial piece came from quiet Mrs. Gable. Our elderly neighbor, it turned out, had kept detailed handwritten notes of every single HOA meeting for the past 15 years. Her meticulous records provided the undeniable timeline prosecutors needed, illustrating how petty corruption had escalated into a full-blown criminal conspiracy. "I always knew that Brenda Maxwell was bad news," Mrs. Gable declared when I stopped by to thank her, offering her some fresh tomatoes from my garden. "It started small, you know, giving citations for my bird feeders but ignoring her own friends' violations." At the final sentencing hearing, I sat beside Olivia, who used a wheelchair but insisted on being there. The judge's voice echoed in the tense courtroom. "This court sentences Brenda Maxwell to 9 years in federal prison for conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, and embezzlement." Brenda stared straight ahead, refusing to look our way as marshals led her out, her expensive suit replaced by standard prison attire. 8 months later, on a beautiful spring afternoon, our community gathered. We weren't just celebrating Olivia's cancer remission, but also the completion of a brand new, wider footbridge connecting our properties, funded entirely by the HOA restitution settlement. "Ready to cut the ribbon?" Chloe asked, holding up a bottle of champagne, surrounded by the neighbors who had become our staunchest allies. Olivia smiled, shaking her head. "No need for formalities. This bridge isn't just for Sarah and me now. It belongs to all of us." And she was right. The scandal and its resolution had fundamentally changed Lakeside Meadows. The new HOA board, helmed by Kevin Bell and Mrs. Gable, had completely rewritten the bylaws, focusing on genuine community benefit instead of arbitrary power plays. Kids played tag across lawns without fear of citations. Neighbors shared gardening tips about plants that once would have earned violations. Olivia's Island, once the target of developers, was now permanently protected within a local conservation trust. "You know the biggest lesson in all this?" Olivia mused as we walked together across the sturdy new bridge, her steps growing stronger each day. "Sometimes the very thing someone tries desperately to take away from you ends up being the thing that saves everything." Below us, a young family, new residents in Mark Thompson's former house, laughed as they picnicked near the water's edge. "Do you ever regret fighting them?" Kevin asked, meeting us halfway across the bridge. "Knowing the cost? The stress?" I looked at my sister, healthy and smiling. I looked at our revitalized community, the shared laughter drifting up from the shore. I looked at the bridge, a simple structure that now symbolized so much more: connection, resilience, justice. Some victories aren't measured in dollars or prison sentences, but in the quiet freedom to walk across the water to help someone you love. "Not for a second," I answered, and I knew, deep in my bones, that it was the absolute truth.